Ecco una traduzione in un inglese fluido e professionale, che mantiene lo stile giornalistico e i tecnicismi astrologici del testo originale. Paul Newman, An Astrological Portrait by Ciro Discepolo Joanne Woodward, Paul Newman's longtime wife, has won 2 Oscars in her lifetime, the first in 1959, claiming the prestigious trophy of Hollywood stars, and the second in 1983, while celebrating her silver wedding anniversary with the idol of women across the Western world. She's undoubtedly the target of envy for millions of women who would do anything to exclusively possess the handsome man from Cleveland. With his blue, not just azure eyes, his charming rogue gaze, disarming smile, and the bearing of a conqueror, and Paul Newman claims countless victims. We have all experienced in our own homes the squeals and sighs that rise among women whenever one of his films is announced on TV. To some he is a likable rascal, to others a quiet professional who between films waits for his Oscar at his country home in New England. He is certainly not the Rocky Marciano he portrayed at the start of his career, a figure that seemed a blend of James Dean and Marlon Brando. For years Brando's shadow haunted him. Too many said he was merely a carbon copy, whether better or worse, or that he was going to school just to become Brando. Fortunately for him, the roles that followed helped differentiate their images, allowing him to rightfully claim his own identity. Everyone remembers him for a specific role linked to one of the many successful films in his long artistic career. I personally like to remember him as the protagonist of The Long Hot Summer, the 1959 Martin Ritt film. He plays the ambitious young man into whom an old Orson Welles projects his own competitive drives, a snapshot where Newman's energy cuts through the disarming heat of a Mississippi summer. Perhaps I prefer this film because, as in real life, he's paired with his wife Joanne, and because the film, based on William Faulkner's stories, captures the very essence of his natal chart. In his chart we find a dominant Saturn at the midheaven, great ambition often thwarted by the sinister turns of fate, and a dominant Venus at the ascendant, the beauty and personal charm that win the hearts of both the old and the young. Other dominants, Mercury and Jupiter, provide a youthful spirit, commercial savvy, seen in how he manages his future father-in-law's general store, and the success he eventually achieves. Like the shade of those massive southern oaks, Newman's life has played out in the balance, bouncing between a Saturnian midheaven and a Jovian ascendant, between misfortune and fortune. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor 7 times, and 7 times he lost. Saturn is the 7th planet of the solar system, and 7 represents a quarter of its synodic revolution cycle. Saturn at the midheaven signifies difficult emancipation, hard-won conquests, and professional setbacks that tend to push one back to square one. But the Oscar is merely delayed. Whether it takes another year or more, it will certainly arrive. With his horoscope, his is necessarily a difficult career, yet one that is remarkably stable and constructively positive. True, he hasn't won the Oscar yet, but he remains a superstar, highly paid and deeply admired by public and critics alike. Paul Newman was born in Cleveland, Ohio, on January 26, 1925 at 6:30 a.m. He is therefore an Aquarius with a Capricorn ascendant and a moon in Pisces. The combination of Venus Capricorn at the ascendant, or Libra Capricorn, usually produces subjects who are quite beautiful and fascinating, as is the case here. What the Capricorn ascendant suggests, and what not everyone knows, is that he is not very tall. In fact, he's almost short. He may not have a villain's mustache, But nature gifted him two winning eyes, a skeleton key for every door. Astrologically speaking, his charm is undoubtedly linked to the tight Venus-Pluto opposition, which places that strange light in his pupils, a light somewhere between the likable and the diabolical, the angelic and the mischievous. Venus and Mercury at the ascendant also contribute to this, reinforcing his image as an irresistible male is a strong Mars in Aries in the third house. Paul Newman is an athlete and a sportsman both on screen and in life. He practices tennis and swimming, is competitive even at bridge, and races Formula 1 and 2 cars at a semi-professional level. What contrasts sharply between his public persona and private life is the way he manages his romantic affairs. It is rare for an Aquarius, especially one so handsome, to be married for over 25 years to the same woman, never causing scandal or becoming the subject of tabloid gossip, especially in his environment. In that same span of time, his colleagues have typically collected at least 3 or 4 marriages, some even 7. How do we explain the long, hot summer of his marriage? Let's look at the synastry. It undoubtedly presents very favorable points for the continuity of a relationship. First, both Paul and Joanne are Saturnian-Plutonian types. Furthermore, with their ascendants only 2 degrees apart, they share almost identical house placements. These are 3 primary elements of great significance, but there are others. Their moons are conjunct, and his moon is close to her sun. Their Venus are 60 degrees apart, a sextile. This is a synastry rated 8 plus or higher. However, even with such respectable astrological data, I believe that alone would not have been enough. I could present several synastries of equal value that resulted in much less brilliant outcomes regarding the duration of the bond. What, then, saved the marriage of this actor-director? His wife said it herself. In 25 years, we've spent very little time together. We've lived mostly apart for work. Out of 12 months in a year, we see each other for maybe 3 or 4, and never all at once. In this way, our relationship stays alive, and we manage to overcome the inevitable arguments of any domestic life. It is the egg of Columbus, the very thing I have modestly theorized for a long time. For a relationship to last, there should be no cohabitation. You must see each other very little. Cohabitation kills love. At most, one should live as eternal fiancés or lovers. This is contrary to traditional morality, and I am prepared to be stoned for such statements, but my experience as an astrologer has taught me that this is the master path to maintaining a long-term couple's bond. To be fully honest, I believe 2 factors irreversibly oxidize and ruin a romantic bond: cohabitation and the sense of possession. Those who believe they possess their partner, especially exclusively, are already hurtling towards separation. For our Saturnian couple, however, things have gone very well, because they have positively validated these 2 conditions. If we were to slightly adjust Paul Newman's birth time, I would suggest a few minutes before 6:30 a.m. This would place Neptune more decisively on the cusp of the 8th house, partly explaining the death of the actor's only son due to a drug overdose, though this remains a somewhat unclear point in his horoscope. Mercury, ruler of the 5th house, in opposition to Pluto, is not overly explicit in this regard. The actor also had 5 daughters from 2 marriages. It is clear, however, that the children chapter was not the most central for him, judging by his chart. Certainly more relevant was narcissism, a dominant Venus at the ascendant. Today, he's even more fascinating at over 60 years old with grey hair, After all, with a Capricorn ascendant, he tends to improve with time, like fine wine. His image remains a powerful draw. Proof of this came recently when the director of Rachel, the first time of Jennifer, began selling a salad dressing with his own photograph on the bottle. The supermarket selling it did great business, even though the product was priced 30 cents higher than others. Today, driven by a powerful ambition, Paul Newman continues his climb to success, determined to win that Oscar at all costs. He has already stated that if they give him a Lifetime Achievement Award, he will refuse it. He doesn't want charity. I believe he will make it. His angular Jupiter at the ascendant in the 12th house is an element of protection and luck that allows us to say without a doubt that somebody up there likes him. Published in 80s.